In high school, you might have heard about fallacies in some course on logic or debate, and you were told not to use them, probably, or told to point them out when someone else uses them because they make weak arguments. What I'm going to argue here is that, in fact, fallacies are not bad arguments. They're actually pretty good arguments, or at least they have a strong foundation. And so this is one of the classic fallacy charts you can find online. And so I'm just going to go through some of the fallacies and show why the fallacies are, even if they're not certainly true, they're still not wrong. So this is one of the contrasts between logic and psychology, because in logic, people tend to study what must be true if this other thing is true, like if Socrates is a man and all men are rational, therefore Socrates is rational. But just because something isn't certainly true doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It could be a really good idea. So let's run through this. So, straw man argument. Misrepresenting someone's argument to make it easier to attack. Well, okay, you might scream fallacy, which is true, it is a fallacy. But if you view logic as an art of persuasion or rhetoric, then because logic is it's not just a matter of like if this then this, but also like, okay, you have to start with assumptions and then you use logical rules to reach your conclusions. But if your assumptions are not trustworthy, then your logic is also bad. And so if someone's reputation is bad, that could mean their arguments are bad. So it's not entirely wrong. Slippery slope, which is to say that if we have a few bad things, they'll spiral out of control into many, many bad things. It's not necessarily true, but it may often be the case that can happen in relationships where if bad behavior is accepted early on, it can spiral into a huge toxic dynamic. I don't think we should go through all of these, but I'll just point out a few of them. So, bandwagon is a famous one, which is appeal to popularity or the fact that many people do something as an attempted form of validation. So, you might look at it and say, well, objectively, all these people could be wrong, and that could be true, but there is strength in numbers. If you think about it from the perspective of like a tribe of people trying to hunt a mammoth, what matters is not just if the hunting method is objectively the best, but also if you have a lot of people to work together to hunt the mammoth. And so what the bandwagon fallacy is built on is the fact that there is strength in numbers, and sometimes being wrong together is more successful than being independently right. So, okay, ad hominem is similar as straw man. Oh, sorry, I was making ad hominem and straw man. Straw man is making someone's argument look weaker by attacking a similar looking argument. I guess you could say it's an argument by bad analogy, but analogy is one of the easiest ways to think. And sometimes you don't have the time to put in all the mental effort into making sure things are exactly right, because you just don't always have time to think through all that. False cause, presuming a real or perceived relationship between things means that one is the cause of the other. That's equivalent to correlation is not causation, but still, as Hume, the philosopher from the 1700s, pointed out, we learn what causes what through correlation. And so, even though it's not certain, it's still not something to be ignored. Appeal to authority, similar to bandwagon, even if the authority is wrong in a sense, sometimes it's just safer to cooperate with the authority than risk the consequences of being punished by the authority or something else. Appeal to nature. This is an interesting one, but it's just like, okay, it's kind of like if it already works in nature, nature seems to work, then why not do it? It's argument by analogy, but it's not, it's like kind of right. It's not certain, but probably it's gonna be right more often than not. And then appeal to emotion, again, people are very emotional. It's hard to make a decision without some form of emotion, like moral feeling or whatever. So if you look at logic as trying to persuade someone, it's not entirely wrong. It's actually pretty powerful. And then taking a middle ground, that goes down back to the thing of like bandwagon or appeal to authority, where it's like, okay, you're trying to make a compromise. And so this is the big thing, is this is where you see the conflict between psychology and logic, is what these fallacies are built on is psychology. And often, as I like to say, things that are true in psychology are false in logic, and things that are true in logic are false in psychology. Like, in logic, you might say, well, the middle ground is not necessarily true. But in psychology, like conflict resolution, you'd say, well, sometimes a compromise is the most productive thing you can do. So, this is, I think many people either lean into psychology or into logic, and then, but it's important to see both because both are valid tools of persuasion. And of course, there's the fallacy, which is just because something's a fallacy doesn't mean it's false. And this is kind of, I guess you could say, what I'm pointing into, but it's just, not only is our fallacies not necessarily, not only do fallacies mean the argument is wrong, but also fallacies, while they're not certain, what is certain in life? Like, they're still strong. And they're not ideal, but we don't live in an ideal world. I mean, you see right here, Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle, which were quite big fans of making ideal worlds, like Plato's Republic or Aristotle's Politics. And Plato's kind of bridged the gap. But, oh, I pointed to the wrong people. That's Socrates, that's Aristotle, that's Plato. But anyhow, so logic is kind of idealistic, and yeah, I really don't think the fallacies are that wrong. It's, if you look at what would make the most sense to argue with if you're trying to convince your tribe to hunt mammoths most effectively, or you're trying to get people to work together in a team in the present day, logic's quite possibly not the best method to do it. It quite possibly could be using these fallacies, because they're convincing, because people who people who were convinced by the fallacies were more likely to succeed, because they are kind of right. Not strictly speaking, but in the real world, the fallacies are kind of true. I hope that helps clarify why fallacies are so prevalent and so commonly used in argumentation, even though logic often condemns them. If you like this content, please subscribe to my channel for more insights like this. Even if I haven't made more videos like this yet, if you subscribe or like the video, I will be more likely to make content like this in the future.